All right, shall we do the box office top 10?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so at 10 in the UK and in the US, not charted, is Gadar 2, The Katha Continues. This is a new Hindi language release.
Can we do the two that aren't in the top 10 first?
Yes. In fact, shall we do the three?
There's three, yeah.
So, yes, we have, the first is Katak the Brave Beluga.
Well, look, let's do these two together. Katak the Brave Beluga and Puffin Rock and the New Friends. Yes. The reason that we do them together is when Sanjeev and I reviewed them last week, it was interesting that there were two films aimed at younger audiences, both with a kind of eco-friendly consciousness. One of them was about belugas, the other one's about puffins. And actually, the second one is the Puffin Rock is by Cartoon Saloon, and it's lovely and charming and delightful, and the animation is great. And the beluga is like, okay, it's the difference is if you were a parent and you were taking the children to see this, the beluga one is the one that you do what Simon Mayo does, which is have an earpiece in so you could listen to the football. And the Puffin Rock is the one when you take the earpiece out because actually it's really charming and it's got this lovely narration. But so I think if you're going to do one of the two of them, Puffin Rock is absolutely the one to do.
And we also, not charted, is L'Immensità.
Yes, did you see this?
Film. I saw this back at Venice last year and loved it.
Yeah.
I thought it was completely delightful and really affecting.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting film. The title is because it literally means the immensity. And essentially, it's a portrait of a marriage breaking up as seen from the point of view of people going through their own kind of adolescent coming of age. And it deals with we was talking to Sanju about this, it deals with a bunch of heavy issues, as the title suggests, but it does it with a lightness of touch and a sense of wit and empathy that actually makes it's not a heavy load to carry at all. And Sanjeev was saying, are you emotionally involved in it? And yeah, that's absolutely why it works. It works because you're emotionally involved. And Penelope Cruz is terrific in it. I mean, she's terrific in almost everything, but she's very good in this.
She's great. Okay, so at 10 we have Gadar 2, The Katha Continues. This is the Hindi language film, and
yes,
which is typically not screened to critics.
No, it wasn't press screen. It's a historical action drama. There's another one later on in the chart, which is Jailer, which is a Tamil language action thriller written and directed by Nelson. Again, this wasn't screened. We've talked about this before. The general reason is that the distributors don't screen them, often because they don't get them in time, because in order to stop the films being pirated, they often don't arrive, for screening. Like the BBFC will see them the day before they're going out. So that's why. So if you have seen either of those two, send us an email.
At number 9 in the UK and at 12 in the US is Elemental. Now, this has quietly made just over 15 million in the UK so far.
Which is very good.
It's miles off Inside Out, but it's significantly better than Lightyear, which, of course, last year was meant to be Pixar's great box office hope.
But the reason is because it is significantly better than Lightyear, which was a terrible film. I mean, Lightyear I thought was... No?
I thought Lightyear was diabolical. It's Pixar's worst by miles for me. I think Elemental, it's interesting because I think that the central romance in that film, and it is a romance, is incredibly sweetly handled. And I think the film improves a lot as it goes on, and the romance becomes more central to what's going on. I think you had an issue with this as well. All the fiddly stuff about how Element City works feels to me like padding. It's like we've created this world in which we want this couple who can't be together to be together, but because we've now built the world, we have to do some fun stuff with it. And it's not as fun as it is in Disney's Zootropolis, for instance, Zootopia overseas, where you actually feel as if there's, seeing the mice going to work on the tiny little train and all this stuff. It's really sweet and fun, and there's a lot of fun visual trickery with issues of scale and things. In this, it's not. It's just a lot of complicated blur. And then finally, when this relationship kind of catches, you're like, okay, now I see what the film is about.
I thought, I've said this before, but I don't know whether you heard Simon's interview with the director.
I did, Peter Sohn, yes.
Yes, and it really was one of the things that the film improved for me hugely after hearing that interview, because he was talking very movingly and very personally.
At number 8 in the UK and 9 in the US is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. Now, Mark, I have a question about your already much celebrated F My Hat review of this film. Now, clearly you loved it, and I loved it too. Goodness, I think it's wonderful. In your review for The Observer, you went 4 stars rather than 5. Now, my question isn't, why didn't you give it 5? Because there's nothing more boring.
Because you're not an idiot.
Than moaning at critics about why they didn't give a film one rating than another. But what I'm interested in is what your method is for working out star ratings.
Okay.
Because I did, having listened to you talk about the film on the podcast, I thought, okay, this must be a 5 from Mark. And it wasn't.
Okay, well, it's very simple. Firstly, as we all know, star ratings are stupid, and we all hate them. And what happened with The Observer was that we came to an arrangement, which was that there would be star ratings on the website because it drives traffic, but not in the newspaper because the review is the review, okay? And in terms of a methodology, if there is one, I mean, if it's possible to have a methodology, it would be, I really love the film. It makes no sense, and the script is a bit shonky. So it's not a five-star film would be Tom Cruise throwing himself off the top of a mountain with a plot that absolutely made brilliant sense and was written by Oscar Wilde. A 4-star film is Tom Cruise throws himself off the top of a mountain after a lot of people have talked about The Entity and said the words The Entity so many times, so that's it. But it's like, it's possible to absolutely, and, you do the same. You have to do star ratings for the Telegraph.
For the Telegraph,
right?
yes, that's right.
Do you hate it as much as I do?
I mean, broadly, yes, because you tie yourself in knots. And the thing is, how I approach it is I don't put the rating on until I've written the review.
Me too.
Because, I mean, sometimes you just know, but often you need to read back what you thought and think, okay, so this reads like this. And sometimes an editor will read it and go, do you know what? This actually reads, and my goodness, film PR's hair would fall out if they knew these kind of discussions went on. But, you'll write something and the editor will, actually, to me, that doesn't sound like a 3, it sounds like a 4, or vice versa. Yeah. And you'll say, yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't, to me, it doesn't matter, because what matters is the words that you slave over,
yes.
right? So I would only really know 100% at the end of the review.
Yeah.
Part of me loves it because it's nailing your colours to the mast, and it's doing it in an extremely visible way, more visible than the text. But it's not doing anything that the text isn't.
Except it isn't, because, as I have said before, there are movies that you love and movies that you hate. But the movies that are really important are the movies that you can love and hate at the same time. And a star rating cannot do that.
At number 7 in the UK and in the US, not charted, is Jailer, which is a Tamil language thriller, again, not press screened.
If anyone's seen it, please let us know. Written and directed by Nelson is all I know about it.
At number 6 in the UK and 3 in the US is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. Now, did you manage to catch up with this?
Yes.
And?
It's fine. I mean, it's you've seen it, right?
I was very pleasantly surprised by this one, because all the other Turtles films are rubbish.
Okay, except the first Turtles film, it was at the time the biggest selling independent movie of all time. It doesn't mean it's any good, but it was the biggest selling independent movie of all time.
It's interesting for that reason alone. I mean, have you watched it recently?
No, I watched it once when it came out.
It's a monstrosity.
And I wrote a song called Turtle Town about going to Hollywood when all those, and when it was absolutely everywhere. And that was
Turtle Town, like the John Cooper Clarke Chicken Town.
Well, yes, except with a different word.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
wow.
that was it. But it's it was
a bit like an homage to that.
It was just it was me being smart, or being stupid, depending on which version you want.
At number 5 in the UK and 6 in the US is Haunted Mansion. This is a new entry. It's made less than $1 million in the UK, so that sort of suggests there's no real appetite for this film. Yeah. The Eddie Murphy one in 2003 made more than twice as much in its opening weekend.
Yes.
And that's at 2003 prices. So I don't know. I mean, I just found this such a trudge.
I just, it is boring, and it struggled to keep my attention, and it's a shame because there are a lot of very good people attached to it, from the director to the cast. It's a second run at turning this fairground ride into a film, and I sat through the whole thing thinking, when is this? There's just stuff. There's just stuff.
It's a stuff film. It's another stuff film.
So much stuff, but also in terms of what's the plot. Well, the plot
is... There's a house with ghosts in it.
And then Owen Wilson has come in, but then he is, but then he isn't. And then there's the thing with the guy with the head, but then he's not there. And you're going, just which one of these themes are you? And then Jamie Lee Curtis in a bowl. It's like, just pick one, right? Just pick one. Don't just throw stuff at And also watching it, I did think, I haven't seen Hocus Pocus in a while. I enjoyed Hocus Pocus more than... Have you seen Hocus Pocus?
Hocus Pocus is a really fun film.
Yeah.
As the sequel was not too bad either.
Oh yes, Hocus Pocus 2.
Now, at number 4 in the UK and in the US, it's not charted, but only because it's not out yet, is Gran Turismo, another new entry, which has just scraped $1 million in its opening weekend.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me that it's not a huge hit, but I do think well, firstly, it's a video game adaptation that isn't. It's it's based on a true story that I knew nothing about. I didn't know Jan Maldenborough's story at all.
No, not really. I've not seen the film, I should say. Okay. Even as someone who plays Gran Turismo, this was totally new to me.
Well, I don't play Gran Turismo, but I didn't know the story of, this guy who was a gamer who then through the program ends up actually, driving race cars. So it's a good story. And, Neil Blomkamp is known for science fiction, but in a way this is a kind of, it's almost a science fiction fantasy because it's the last starfighter with cars, basically. He becomes really, really good at the video game and then you go out on the track and do it. I thought the race sequences were exciting. I know a couple of younger people who've seen it and really, really enjoyed it. So, okay, not a runaway hit, but I think it's a much better film than it could have been. I think it's it's an interesting way of doing a video game adaptation, and I think he does know how to direct. I think he does a good job of making the real world and the virtual world interface. So I think, in that respect, it is a science fiction movie, even though it's not fiction.
Now, at number 3 in the UK, number 4 in the US, a film which there's clearly an enormous, one might even say prehistoric shark-sized appetite for, Meg 2, The Trench.
Have you seen it?
Yes, I have seen
it.
It's taken an extraordinary 7.5 million.
Yes.
How this has happened, I don't know. Now, let's start with an email from Greg.
Go ahead.
Greg says, I took my 12-year-old to see Meg 2 and we both really enjoyed it. It was utterly preposterous, but a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. What struck me was the difference in the critical response to this, and what was in many ways a very similar film, Greg's words, not mine, the latest Mission Impossible. Both are utterly bonkers, something me and my child both notice. In each, the plot, such as it is, only really exists to link together set pieces and stunts. They both exist in a parallel universe where the laws of physics and cause and effect don't quite work the same as in ours. And if you pause either part the way through to actually think about what's happening, it would break the illusion and you'd be left spluttering. But surely that wouldn't. Of course, the stunts in Mission Impossible are a level or two up, which might be why the critics, that's one way of putting it, which might be why the critics were a little more forgiving, but I'm not sure any of the criticisms of Meg don't also apply to Mission Impossible. Of the two, we probably liked Meg 2 more. It was half an hour shorter, but it felt much shorter still. With Mission Impossible, much as we liked it, it felt like we'd been in the cinema for 2.5 hours. With the Meg, it was more of, wow, was that really 2 hours? So that's Greg's take.
Okay. Well, I really enjoyed the Meg 2. The thing with Mission Impossible is a better movie. There's just no question about it, And also, Jason Statham does do his own jet skiing, but Tom Cruise threw himself off a mountain on a motorbike 6 times. So I really enjoyed Meg 2, and I had a couple of people say, well, you only like it because you like Ben Wheatley. Look, this is how it works. I like Ben Wheatley's films. And so Ben Wheatley, there's a good chance that if Ben Wheatley makes a film, I'll probably be something in there that I like. I think the problem with the first Meg was it was too well behaved. I think the problem with this Meg, because you can't up the gore because it still has to have the PG-13 in America, they just up the madness. And the madness is massively upped. And I think the pacing of the film is well done. I think the fact that it is like a kind of dun 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 dun, and you get to the third act and it's like WTF exclamation mark. I thought it was really good fun. I like all the kind of, the Thunderbirds and the, Edgar Rice Burroughs and all that stuff and Mothra and, all the stuff that that Ben Wheatley loves. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a much better film than the Meg. And you?
I thought it was appalling. And look, I'm as in the tank for Ben Wheatley as you are, I think. And I think there's a certain critical instinct. And it's not I will like the film because a director has made it.
No.
But that you try to read a director's tastes and impulses into whatever it is they have made, whether or not those things are there. And I think
you or one tries to do that.
One does. And so things like Statham's slightly askew line readings and the writing, is this Wheatley being arch and ironic? Or is it just a bad script? I kind of have to say it's
well, Wheatley didn't write the script.
No, I know, but that's what I mean. Like when you hear Statham delivering those lines, do you think, oh, Wheatley's having a bit of fun with this? Or is he just shooting a terrible script? I think he's just shooting a terrible script. I would love to see the giant shark underwater mining thriller that Wheatley would make on 1% of this film's budget. I wanted to see the kind of clanky and wobbly sort of Doctor Who level special effects thing of people going underwater and fighting each other in this weird
the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Yeah, exactly. But with that kind of, free fire sort of edge and the chaotic cast all clashing. I have other issues with this film that I don't think we've got time to go into now, with the fact that it's a Chinese co-production. I have huge misgivings about working hand in hand with a propaganda department of the Chinese state. And this is not something that's just a Meg 2 issue. This is an enormous Hollywood issue.
That's a whole show in itself.
But when you take your cues about what you can and can't do in a film from a government body, this is not good news to me. But as I say, it's not just a Meg 2 issue. But no, I wanted to see the film that Wheatley would have made with far, far less money and far more freedom. We are actually, having talked about this, we now have to this extent, we now have to whiz through the last two at the top of the chart, but I think everyone knows these films already. At number 2, massive drum roll, unexpectedly, of course, it is Oppenheimer. And at number 1, in both the UK and the US, it's Barbie.
I mean, no surprise that Barbie is still hanging on to the number 1 spot. It was, I think, a record-breaking weekend when they both opened. I have seen both of them. I have seen Barbie twice. I've seen Oppenheimer once. I would like to see Oppenheimer again, but I think they're both they're both interesting films. If Cillian Murphy doesn't get Oscar nominated, I will eat Werner Herzog's shoe. But I haven't heard from you. What do you think?
Yes, no goodness, I love them both. I'm more. I have to say, is it one of your kids thinks Oppenheimer is the best film of the year?
One of Sanjeev's kids.
One of Sanjeev's kids. That was it. Yes. Yes, I'm with them. I think it's terrific. I think Barbie is incredibly cleverly done. It's the pleasure of seeing Greta Gerwig and her cast stage their own escape from this impossible trap that they've made for themselves is really, really exciting. But I think Oppenheimer is just incredible. And I went into that film the first time, I've seen it a couple of times now, and thinking, let's not be crass. Let's not kind of talk about Oscars on the way out of this thing. Let's just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah. And then you literally, I saw. Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Well, Cillian Murphy must be nominated. He must win. But the score is Göransson's best yet. Must be winning it's very.
The score is great, and Murphy. It is an Oscar-winning performance, isn't it?
I hope so.
Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. While you're here, check out all the other videos because they're cool too, aren't they?
Yeah, and if you want to keep up to date with everything Kermode and Mayo's Take, then check out our social channels.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
I mean, I would. I have done.
Excellent.